Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Okay, it looks like copy. Hmm. Okay. All right. So, hi. I see there's a couple of people there. Were you able to find me again? I tried to send a link to everybody, but it didn't seem to work. What I'll do is I'm going to send a quick email with the link. Just give me a second here. I'm sorry. I'll be right back to this call. Okay. Hi. If you were disconnected to the monthly call, click here. Thanks. Okay. Save and exit. Okay, folks, just give me a minute. I'll be right back. I'm just shooting off an email to those who weren't able to. Okay. So, some of you are finding me again. That's good. So, please ask your questions again. I see that I do have some volume. I don't know if it's coming. I think it's coming from here. So, I'm going to keep it on. I'm just checking the email because I'm sending out a quick email to make sure if people have an opportunity. And now it's freezing here. You see, this is how you prove that what I'm doing works. Because I'm very calm through all of this. If you were disconnected from my monthly call, please click here. Almost there. Oh, 1 second, please. Almost there. In the meantime, it gives you time to write down your questions, right? So that's good. Almost there. If you were disconnected from my call, click inside. Thanks. Okay, so save and exit. Schedule broadcast. Send message now. Okay, I'll be able to come back to you in just a minute. Okay, good. So now I'm back. And I just sent off an email. I see there's 3 of you there. I apologize for what happened. YouTube has issues, apparently. I was disconnected from everybody and no one could hear. When I reset it up, it killed the line and I wasn't able to send everybody the link to click. So I had to resend a new email. I do apologize for that. The first half will be online in a minute. And then this part will also be online when we end this part of the call as well. Mahar, thank you very much. I'm glad you can hear me now. It was quite an ordeal. And now, as you can see, I'm wearing silly headphones with a microphone that hopefully works better than the built-in microphone on my camera, which may have caused the problem. Perhaps it was an internet issue. I'm not exactly sure. I can tell you that I have great internet connection right now, so hopefully it sticks around. We have 3 people on the line. If any of you have any questions that can keep us going, thank you, Mahar, again. That would be great. I'd love to be able to answer all of your questions. Unfortunately, the questions that were on the previous effort went by the wayside. They all disappeared, and I have no idea what you asked. So I could sing for you now and kill time until we were ready to get going again, until we get some more. But that's probably not going to keep you on the call. So let's see. Let's see. Okay, we talked a little bit. We'll fill some more time. Hopefully, people will get the email and come back on the call. In the meantime, as you're coming on the call, maybe I'll write a little note here too. Sorry about the disconnect. Please type your questions below, and I'll be happy to answer them. Smiley face. There you go. Okay. Raul, okay. Which recording do you suggest before going to bed or just after waking up? That's a good question. I'll need to know what you actually have, though. Okay. So please let me know which recordings you have. Pardon me. Oh, okay. You're quick. You have Quantum Mind Power and Quantum Confidence. Okay, if you have Quantum Mind Power, you have a recording in there that was an unannounced bonus called Good Night Sleep Well. That recording leads people through the first half of a healthy adult sleep cycle. So you should be listening to that one at a very quiet volume only once. Okay, don't repeat it, only once. And the reason why this is good is it's designed based on data that I gathered on the average healthy adult sleep cycle. Now, the way sleep cycles work is normally people have between 4 and 7 of them every night. They're longer at the beginning. So the first one is usually around 90 minutes, an hour and a half, and it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And as they get shorter, you get less and less, say, of delta and other frequencies as well. So it's really important that the beginning of your sleep, especially the first couple hours, maybe 3, 4 hours, are maybe the most important parts because that's where you really get your delta. Delta is mostly involved in healing the body, healing the mind, all these things. So very, very important that you have delta and very important that you use that. So I would say good night, sleep well. Now, if you've been listening a lot and you have a lot of experience, then you can listen when you wake up in the morning. I would stay away right away from listening to anything that's slow. So I wouldn't listen to, say, neural synergy, even the Schumann resonance, because as you are waking up, your brain wants to go faster and faster, kind of gears up. And if you wake up and then you listen to a slow recording, that will tend to cause problems. What that can do is that can bring you out of the wake up part of your cycle, and it can make you lethargic, it can make you dull, it can do all kinds of strange things. For some people it doesn't, but that's why I say once you're experienced, you can try things. If you're not experienced, if you haven't been listening every day for a couple of months at least, I would stay away from listening when you wake up for at least an hour. And that's my general rule of thumb. Wait at least an hour. It gives you a chance to do everything you need to do and for your brain to do everything it needs to do. So I see people are starting to write questions, which is terrific. And I see more people are starting to find their way back on the call. So I do apologize for the extra email that you all got in your boxes now, but hopefully you'll be able to forgive me for that. And I do apologize for YouTube's problems. Okay, let's see here. The next question is, hey, hi, Maury. I am currently using the New Health One. Will this help financially as well? Thanks. Okay, interesting question. What I need to tell you is that if you're healthier, you're more able to do things. If you're more able to do things and you're inspired to, and you actually do things, you take action, then you're likely to be more successful. If you're likely to be more successful, you're likely to have more money, depending on what you're working to be successful at. So, in that roundabout way, I guess you can say, sure, it could help with finances as well. But please understand that my systems are designed for you to help yourself. They're not magic. I'm not, any kind of an icon. I'm not a magician. I don't have a, I don't have a direct line to any greater power or anything like that, that I can, put in a good word for you and you'll get taken care of. I believe we all have everything we need. And it's just a matter of becoming aware of it and then having the inspiration to actually go ahead and do something about it and to take action. So once we take action, that's when things start happening. So the triliminal for healing is to help you recondition your mind to a more positive outlook. That positive outlook hopefully makes you take positive steps. You're eating better, you're sleeping better, you're doing a lot of things better and smarter. And these things are what will help your health. So it's your own actions actually that will help your health, keeping in mind that it's your own action to listen as well. Now, the way triliminals work best is actually the same way brain prints work. So here's how you create a custom system using brain prints or triliminals for that matter, because most of you have more than one triliminal. So this is what you do. You hold your intention in your mind. Okay. My intention, my intention. Okay. And then I look through the list of all the triliminals I have, even the recordings, even the non triliminals. The ones that jump out at me in a good or a bad way are probably my subconscious's way of saying these are related to my issue that I'm trying to deal with. Okay, my intention. I take that listing of recordings. What I normally do is I copy them to a new folder. And then I have a playlist basically of all of the recordings that are relevant to that particular issue. Okay, that particular intention that I have. And then whenever I want to listen, I look in that bin, if you will. And the recording that first jumps out at me is the one I listened to at that time. Let's say I have 12 recordings that I ended up picking. So I'll listen to the one that jumps out at me, but I don't have time to listen the rest of the day. So tomorrow, when I listen, I pick from what remains. So the one that I listened to today, I don't listen to again until I've cycled through all the others. So every day I go through. Today I can listen to, say tomorrow, I can listen to 3 recordings. So I'll look. The first one that jumps out at me is the one I listen to. Then the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. So that means now on the third day, I've listened to 4 recordings out of the 12. I now have 8 left to choose from over the next few days or however long it takes me to listen to the remaining recordings. Once I've listened through, I go ahead and I listen again. And again, I choose either randomly, if that's what my feeling is, or instead of choosing randomly, what I do is very simply, I use my intention again, like I was just saying earlier. I use my intention to see which one jumps at me. And the one that jumps at me is the one that I need to listen to. And I go through it that way. Now, a beautiful way or a beautiful result of using my systems this way, either the brain prints or the triliminals, and this is really, really cool, is that you're not only creating a customized system for yourself, which is something you can't get anywhere else. Okay, you're creating a customized system, but you're not just creating a customized system, you're creating a system that is evolutionary in its nature because a month down the road, 2 months down the road, you might get this feeling like, well, my issues are shifting, they're changing. I'm growing in certain areas and I'm not growing in other areas. You'll have this uneasiness, this feeling like I need something different. It needs to change now, which is beautiful because now what you do is you go through all the recordings you have again with the intention and you pick recordings again from scratch. You will probably find that you'll pick some of the recordings or even a lot of the recordings that you picked before, but you'll also pick newer recordings too. Not necessarily new to you, but new to this list. And that is evidence for you that you're changing. And that's the whole point of this. So you can keep evolving your own program from the recordings that you already have or that you purchase, and you can keep morphing it and molding it and forming it as you need it. Now, the other beautiful thing is it's not just one item you can work on or one intention. Do this for 5 intentions if you want. Do it for 100 intentions if that's how many you have. And the nice thing is you can take all the recordings and move them all into one folder. So you may find with 5 different intentions that maybe, say, there's 20 recordings that you have for 5 intentions. And a lot of the recordings will be the same for each intention. You'll see that. Some of them will have duplicate recordings. Well, you don't have to put the same recording in there more than once. Others will be different. As you listen through this now set of 20 recordings, you will find that you're actually dealing with all of your issues at the same time. Now, the beauty of that is, okay, that you actually, that's the nature, that's the dynamic, that's how you operate anyway. People don't realize that if you have prosperity issues, and most of the time people consider prosperity money, so let's talk about money. Let's say you have money issues. Then if all you do is put blinders on and deal with products that are specifically and only to do with prosperity, you're missing fragments of things that are involved that you're not dealing with. It's kind of like I'm totally out of shape, so I'm going to get those things that, exercise your fingers, right? Those little spring-loaded hand things, and I'm going to do that like crazy. So my hands are going to get really strong and muscular, but the rest of my body is still weak. That is the analogy of working on quote unquote only prosperity when that's your issue, because nothing exists in a vacuum, and your issue with prosperity is more than likely tied to other issues you have as well, other belief systems you have as well. When you look at the effortless prosperity system, for instance, you will see that there's a lot of triliminals there, and a lot of them don't seem to have any relevancy towards prosperity. But the thing is, in my research, I have found that they all are related in many cases to many people to prosperity issues. Pardon me. So that's why the effortless prosperity system is set up the way it is. Now, getting back to you creating your own system. So now you go through the list for one issue or intention. Once you've done that and you've copied the recordings over to the new folder, then you go through it with the second intention and you copy them over. If it says it's already there, you can say overwrite or just forget it. And you just do that for all your intentions. And again, once you have that bulk of recordings, you just go through them the way I explained earlier. If you can listen 3 times today, the first one that jumps out at you, you listen. The second one, you listen. The third one, you listen. The next day, you choose from the 17 that are left over. If you listen to 2 that day, the next day you listen to the 15 that are left over, and so on and so forth until you get done, and then you rotate over, keeping in mind that your brain, your mind is much like a muscle. If you exercise to the point where you get nice abs and a nice chest and nice arms, and you're happy, and you go, I'm happy, I'm going to, I don't have to do anything anymore now, because now I look the way I want to look, I feel the way I want to feel. So I stop exercising and I stop eating right. Well, you know what? My muscles are going to go to crap again, and so is my diet. And before you know it, I'll be back to being the flabby mess that I was before. So I'm not saying that you're going to have to listen 3 times a day or 2 times a day for the rest of your life. But once you get to where once you get to where you want to be, that's when you come up with what I call a maintenance dose. So for many people, that's even listening maybe twice a week, just enough to keep you where you are. And you'll have to figure out what that is as you go. So once you get to where you are, you can start cutting back a little bit. And as long as you keep feeling good, you keep cutting back until you get to that little break even point where now it's not as good as it was. But when I listen to that extra recording, I'm back where I want to be. That's where you stay. And then you follow your instincts. Remember, your brain, you are your own guru here. It will tell you when you need to do it, just like you get hungry when you need to eat or thirsty when you need to drink. It's a natural process that you will learn eventually to understand and to read, and it will allow you to be everything you want to be easily. And interestingly enough, sometimes we think we need money. Well, you know what? I know lots of people who thought they needed money and they have tons of money now and they're still miserable. So you need to be open to what you bring for yourself, because inside, and this is what these recordings help to bring out, they help to reprogram your negative reflexive thought processes, which will clarify for your subconscious and your conscious mind what exactly you need to be happy. And that's what you will be inspired to take action for. So don't set yourself an arbitrary goal thinking that's what you need, because you may be leading yourself down the garden path, or as they say, the proverbial garden path. All right. I hope that helps. And I hope there's been people asking questions in the meantime. So let's see here. Okay. I am currently using the new health one. Will this help financial? Okay. We did that. Okay, QMP, triliminals as well. I love neural followed by triliminal. Yes, you can do that. That's a good point. Neural synergy from the Quantum Mind Power System. You can listen to any of the spoken word recordings I have, any of them, the Quake meditation, the emotive brainwave hypnosis, the whole brain gratitude meditation, any of the triliminals immediately after neural synergy. You can actually do it immediately after Schumann resonance as well. All the other recordings, you should wait at least half an hour in between. Keeping in mind that properly engineered entrainment helps to create neural chemistry, and it's the neural chemistry that allows you to feel the way you feel. It's kind of like overfilling your gas tank. You don't want to do that, right? So you fill up your gas tank, you drive a while, the level goes down, then there's room for more. It's the same thing with your neural chemistry. Now, your brain will not produce too much. It's not like taking an injection where you can overdose. But that being said, it's better to give yourself that break. Remember, I consider the brain much like a muscle. And just like a muscle, you do your reps and then there's a rest period. So that's the way to listen. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Can you talk more about the time warp subliminals? How do they compare to the triliminals or brain prints? Sure. That's actually a really good question. Let's do that. Also, I'd like to point out that with this call and the previous call where we had the problems, we have about 40 minutes of recording. These are automatically saved, by the way, on YouTube. So any of you want any of this to hear again, or maybe take some notes from, if you feel the need or the desire, you can go back and listen to both parts of this. I called this one March Part 2, I believe. I was kind of flying through the type, trying to do this quickly for people. So hopefully I got it correct, but at least it's Part 2 and you'll see it in order with the date. So talking about the time warp subliminals and how they compare to triliminals or brain prints. Okay, so let's do triliminals and brain prints first, because they're the most related. Brain prints were given birth from requests from you folks, because I was told by many, many people, I love your triliminals, but the ominous but, okay, but I don't have time to listen 3 times a day. Now, triliminals last about 30 minutes, and the best way to listen to them is with your eyes closed, lying down, stereo headphones, comfortable volume. Okay. A lot of people had a very difficult time finding that 3 times 30 minutes a day to be able to do that. Because ultimately, the best way to listen to triliminals is 3 a day. So they asked me, Maury, is there any way that you can make these things so that I don't have to stop doing things I'm doing? Is there any way for you to do this in a fashion that I can get benefits, but I can still do other things? So I started thinking about it and I came up with brain prints. So brain prints are basically subliminalized triliminals, but it's also not just subliminalized spoken word, but subliminalized entrainment as well. So with triliminals, you wear the stereo headphones because I direct other things, but specifically the voices, into different areas of the brain. So we have in the left ear for the right hemisphere, in the right ear for the left hemisphere, and then in the center for potentially both. With the triliminals, they all go where they need to go. With the brain prints, because they're subliminalized versions of triliminals, I had to add certain factors that would allow for the messaging to get to the appropriate hemispheres of the brain, despite the fact that they're being played over a speaker now as opposed to stereo headphones. With the stereo headphones and the triliminals, I can physically direct the signals and the sound exactly where I want them to go. With the brain prints, I couldn't do that easily. So I came up with a technique, which I'm not going to tell you what that technique is, but I'll tell you part of the technique, a technique that allows your brain to react best to what it is designed to react to. Okay. So even though you're only using a single speaker at times, I still managed to get the proper messages to the right areas of your brain on a subliminal level. So it's more subtle. Then, because we want it to be more effective than a traditional subliminal, we've added the only form of brainwave entrainment that actually works subliminally. And you'll see out there, if you do searches on Google, you'll see that there's other people who sell what they claim to be subliminal entrainment. The problem with that is it kind of gives them away as not knowing what they're talking about. Because for entrainment to work, you need to have a pulse tone occur outside of the head, not inside the head. That's why binaural beats have their purposes, but entrainment is not one of them. So, what happens is the beat has to occur outside the head so that there's an electrical current that gets sent, because that's how sound works. The vibration is experienced, gets translated into electricity through the brain. So, beep, electric pulse, pause, no pulse. Beep, electric pulse, pause, no pulse. And it goes on and on like that. So if it's subliminalized, it can't work. It's just there, but it's not affecting anything. However, with the brain prints, there is a subtle entrainment effect, because what I've done is I have included various techniques to not only get the sound of my voice where it needs to go, but also the entrainment recognized by the brain, even though it doesn't consciously hear it. Then, to augment it and to get the brain to behave properly, I include the recording that's in the triliminal with a few tweaks that allows it. And this one is an audible entrainment track. So you hear shh and you hear ba 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 ba. And you have to listen to that at least twice a week, so that when you listen to the brain prints, the subliminal entrainment tone is recognized. And because you have experience listening to that in real terms at a volume, then through something called muscle memory, your brain starts creating a subtle entrainment effect, because it recognizes the tones and it recognizes how to react. So it does. That's what a brain print is, as opposed to a triliminal. Now, a triliminal, of course, is going to be stronger because it's more in your face, as it were. It also requires a more strict listening routine. With brain prints, you need to play them a lot. But you can do that. Don't play them when you're doing anything dangerous. Don't play them in the car. But otherwise, you can play them anytime. You can play them all night long. Even though they have an entrainment code in them, it's a weak enough code that it shouldn't affect your sleep. I have yet to hear of anyone whose sleep has been affected by listening to brain prints all night long, like in a negative way. I've had lots of people tell me in a positive way, but I've had no one tell me in a negative way. Regular brainwave entrainment recordings, you can't loop all night long, because it kind of forces the brain out of its natural circadian rhythm, out of its natural sleep routine. So, triliminals, brain prints. Now we talk about the time warp subliminals. Those are very different. Those are kind of like traditional subliminals with a twist. If you listen to them for an hour, that means they're playing in the background at a low volume over a speaker for an hour. You will get over 2 million presentations of positive affirmations. There's a technique I created called the time warp technique, which actually compresses the messages to such a degree that in an hour, I give you over 2 million presentations. That's why when you hear that squeaking sound, it kind of sounds almost like those old movies when people used to talk about, speeding up. They got a lot slower, they sped up. And as they sped up, their voice got squeakier and higher and faster. And then people moving around them looked like they were standing still, because that's how slow they were moving. That's kind of like what we're doing with these time warp subliminals. I'm essentially changing the rules of time and space with how I've manipulated the audio. Now, consciously, you wouldn't understand what's being said, but subconsciously, your brain can handle a lot more than I'm putting to it every second. and actually it can handle more processes per second than I'm asking your brain to deal with in an hour. I've had a lot of people who tell me time and time again how powerful these subliminals are, and that's why. Now, I'm sorry I'm not going to give away my secrets, but hopefully I've given you enough of an explanation that it gives you an idea of what's going on. Okay, I have, it looks like, one more question. I'm going to hopefully get more. Okay. I mean, I don't want to keep you guys here all night, but that being said, I'm happy to answer. So please, any question at all, if you have comments, if you have an experience that you'd like to share, because you don't realize maybe how valuable sharing your experiences are. I have people who quite literally have experienced what they would consider almost miraculous results. And they said that the only reason why they tried it was because they heard on one of these calls someone make a comment, or they read a testimonial and they thought, well, if this could happen for this person, maybe what I need to happen can happen for me. And it opened up possibilities. I can talk till I'm blue in the face and you'd actually see that. But it's what's more important, because I obviously have a vested interest. I'm the creator. I'm doing this for my living. But when someone makes a comment like you folks, it's your literal experience. If there's time, if I don't get a lot more questions here to help you get a chance to make or come up with more questions, I'll tell you my story. Many of you probably know it to a degree, but I'll tell you my story and how entrainment has affected my life. And maybe that'll help inspire you. So here, let's go here. Pardon me. If you haven't listened in months, what would you recommend to get back on track? Thank you. Okay, so if you haven't listened in months, I would actually suggest that you start listening the same way you started at first. So, whatever program you have, read through the instructions and start off slow. For instance, Quantum Mind Power has a suggested listening routine for the average person of listening to either Neural Synergy or Eden Energy once a day. That's 30 minutes. And then the following day, either Eden Energy or Neural Synergy, and then either the emotive hypnosis or the gratitude meditation. So I would start off the same way. See how you do. As long as you're doing well, you can speed up. You don't have to wait a month or two before you start doing more or differently, because it might kick in faster. Depends on how regular you were before those 2 months that you weren't listening. You'll really have to check for yourself. But to start with, I would start off with the what I suggest as the minimal listening. And also keep in mind, and I'll get into this when I talk about my own story, but there was a time where I was listening 3, 4, 5 hours a day. So depending on your circumstances, if you're just listening because you want to see what's possible, if you want to listen because you have an issue or you have an intention that you'd like to have, or if you're listening because you have serious issues that you really want to try to help yourself along with the other techniques you might be using, either medical, psychological, or, in the ether. However you're going about doing it, you need to follow your instincts as you listen, as you do things, and you need to do everything you can possibly do to help yourself. Like I said, for me, I needed to listen a lot more than the minimum. But for those of you who have stopped listening and want to listen again, I really suggest that you do that. That what you do is, instead of listening going right back to listening the way you did 2 months ago, I would start listening as if I hadn't listened ever before, see how things go, trust my instincts, and go from there. Okay, thank you, those of you who've gotten back to me with thank yous. Okay, Janice, is this recorded so you can listen to part 1 and 2 again? Yeah, YouTube is actually, even though it caused me an issue, YouTube automatically saves the recordings. So when you go to there's a link in the email that I sent you where you can sign up and join my list, if you will, here on YouTube. and be notified of future calls that I do, if you go to that page, you'll probably already see the first one there, and it'll say the Maury method, customer service, etc. The second one, once I'm finished, will be called part two, and you'll be able to listen to part one and part two. YouTube saves them automatically, so I don't have to go through the rigmarole of saving it and asking you to wait and this and that and the other thing. Normally, it takes 10, 15 minutes for YouTube to process the recordings, but once they're there, they're there. And you'll notice if you go there now, or not now, you shouldn't go there now, but when you do go there, you should see them, all my previous recordings as well. Okay. We have a couple more questions. And again, I'm really happy to keep answering. So please, folks, if you're out there, you have a question, a comment, a concern, you want to share your experience, please feel free. I'm more than happy to stick around until I've taken care of everybody's desire. I am very proud of the fact that in all the calls I've ever done on Instant Teleseminar and now on YouTube, I've never left a question unanswered. Keeping in mind that I don't answer questions with respect to other people's products. Other than that, I don't leave things unanswered. Okay, so is it important to complete a subliminal or brain print recording? Occasionally, I need to stop them in between. All right, so brain prints and subliminals are designed the way they're designed for a reason, so that you actually get the full effects over that period of time. That being said, if you have to cut it short, you have to cut it short. Something is always going to be better than nothing. If you have, let's say you have to take a call or you have to do something, and then you come back to it later. If you still feel like you're in the zone, you can continue from where you left. If you feel like you've been pulled away, you should start over. But essentially, especially when it comes to subliminals or brain prints, often you won't listen to the last time you listen. You won't listen in its entirety. Because remember, with brain prints and subliminals, you can loop them. So they can just keep playing over and over again. With subliminals or brain prints, you can not just loop them, but you can play them in order, like as a playlist. With my other recordings, triliminals and other entrainment recordings, it's always better to leave that 30-minute pause in between. Also, please remember with Good Night Sleep Well, you only listen once. If you wake up in the middle of the night, you want to listen to it again, you can do that. But definitely do not have it looping all night long. And the reason for that is simple. Again, we have sleep cycles. The Good Night Sleep Well recording is the first half of what I deem to be a healthy adult sleep cycle. If you keep listening to it on a loop over and over again, it will work contrary to the nature of your own sleep cycle, keeping in mind that your own sleep cycle is like a 90-minute, and then it's like a 70-minute, and then it's like a 50-minute, and then it's like a 30-minute and a 20-minute, that kind of thing. So and you're losing bits and pieces of various frequency ranges as dominant, as well as you go to the slower to the smaller sleep cycles. So you do not want to have the Good Night Sleep Well going over and over and over. It's designed to kind of be like training wheels for your sleep. Much like how when you learned how to ride a two-wheeler bike, someone held the back for you for a bit and then they let go. That's the way the Good Night Sleep Well is designed as well, to kind of hold you balanced for the first bit, and then it lets your sleep cycle take over from there. With time, it can help to retrain the sleep cycle into a more healthy way of being. Okay, hopefully that helps. Okay, let's see. Okay, you're welcome, Janice. You're welcome, Daniel. And you're welcome, Raul. All right, it looks like we have one more question left. This second part two of the call has been about 40 minutes. Pardon me. I will get into a little bit of my own testimonial for my products after, which should give you all time to write a few more questions if you like. But let's take the last question here. Okay. Could you explain how the VI technology works? What is the estimated product release timeline? Okay, let's do this in reverse. VI, which stands for Visual Image Entrainment, will be available for testing, beta testing, through my website. I'll release an email, Song will release an email, and we will only be accepting probably 20 or 25 people to test it. Okay, so it'll basically be the first come, first serve. The way it will work is this. we will charge you $100. Pardon me, I've got a little bit of allergies here. So we'll charge you $100, and over a 6-week period, you'll use the VI recordings the way we've outlined. Hopefully, you'll write mini reports once a week for those 6 weeks, and then a final report at the end of those 6 weeks outlining your overall opinions. Once you've completed that, I will refund you the $100. Plus, you will get to keep the VI system for free when we launch it. So that's how it works. The reason why we take the $100 up front is because if you don't have any skin in the game, as they say, people don't tend to participate or hold up their end of the bargain, I've noticed, in doing a lot of these types of programs before, as far as beta testing. So this way, if you want your $100 back, you're going to write these short reports. And I'm talking like a paragraph, once a week. That's it. And you'd be amazed when people have money down how quick they are to follow through with their commitments. And then again, I'll refund the money at the end of it, assuming that you've given me the full 6 reports. So VI, I'll get more into details with the beta team once we actually choose them. But essentially, it's a brand new form of entrainment that merges sound and sight. Now, many of you are probably aware of light and sound machines, and my mentor actually has a terrific one, Dave Seaver. These are light and sound machines with flashing lights. I don't use that. I'm using a brand new technique that I can't get into right now, not until we're ready to launch, and there will be a non-disclosure for those taking part as well in the test. But I am using a brand new technique that offers a form of visual entrainment to go along with the audio that is programming in nature. So it's not just flashing lights. And that's all I can say right now on VI. I apologize, but I've probably said too much. All right. Okay. Janice would like to know, can you do that if you haven't done any of the others? Janice, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Can I do what if you haven't done any of the others? Can you clarify, please? Folks, please understand that as I'm answering questions, I'm moving on, and you might be asking a general. Oh, okay, the VI. Yes. Oh, pardon me. Maybe a little water is a good idea here. Okay. So, yeah, all of my systems can be used concurrently. So that means if you have more than one, you can use one today, the next one tomorrow, the next one the next day. They all are what I call synergistically compatible. So they all work together to help each other do better. This particular system, VI, can be used no problem. If you've done others, if you're doing others, or entirely on their own. Okay, a lot of people actually will be introduced to my technology with the VI system only. And then they'll probably reverse engineer themselves back into my other entrainment only recordings too. But yeah, it's no problem. You can definitely use VI if you haven't done any of the other recordings. Not a problem at all. Okay, is there such a thing as brain integration between the two hemispheres that is automatically happening with this work? Okay, if you're talking about hemispheric synchronicity, then yes. But I want to explain something. Synchronizing the hemispheres is highly overrated. For most of what we do in our lives, you see, it's funny how something catches on. Hemispheric synchronization, it's the key to the kingdom. You know what? It's good if you can do it. I mean, a lot of my recordings allow you to do that anyway, and you get the benefits from it as well. But much of what happens in life requires hemispheric differentiation, not hemispheric synchronization. You need to say quiet the creative center and let the intellectual center kind of take over. You need to quiet the intellectual center and let the creative center take over. You need to get them both working on different frequencies so they can manipulate and do things like I do what I do best, you do what you do best. And if we're a team, we do everything better. With most things in life, we actually need hemispheric desynchronization. differentiation in order to be successful. One of the reasons why my systems are not only unique but so effective is because I offer that kind of a choice. In my quantum confidence system, the main recording is based on my research of people showing high levels of self-esteem and high confidence, where actually their brainwave activity in my research shows that they are hemispherically different, not the same. With quantum mind power, I've got a recording called Eden Energy Wave Dynamics, which again is not hemispherically synchronous. It's differentiated, two different frequencies for each, one frequency for one hemisphere, the other frequency for the other hemisphere. And the reason for that is it works really well at quietening repetitive thoughts, quietening monkey mind. I'm telling you, don't buy into all the garbage you may be reading out there from people who just parrot back things that sound good. If you do not really understand how the brain works, how it works related to psychology, to physiology, how brain chemistry factors in, then you don't really know what you're talking about. And I'm not talking about any of you, of course. I'm talking about people who have pretty websites and spew forth information as if they know what they're talking about, but they really don't. And this is something that tends, if anything frustrates me still, that's what frustrates me. But it frustrates me with a smile because I tend to smile a lot. But there you go. I hope that helps. Let's see here. Also, from what you said earlier, you're getting what you need to produce neurotransmitters without using supplementation. Okay. Uh, Interesting statement. Entrainment create, and this goes to what I was saying about chemistry. When you feel something, let's say you're interested in what I'm saying. I'll assume you are because you're here. You're interested because you've made a decision to be interested. That decision to be interested makes your brain create frequencies that create chemistry that allows you to be interested. If you love someone, you've decided to love them. Believe it or not, it was a decision. It was usually a lot of decisions. Those decisions combine together to create frequencies, which combine together to create chemistry, which allows you to feel love. When I see my wife, I get warm and fuzzy inside. I just want to yak nonstop, telling her how much I love her. I want to hold her. I want to hug her. All of this happens because I've made a decision. The chemistry gets created, and that's what allows me to feel what I feel. Brainwave entrainment allows you to create that chemistry without making the decision. That's why it works so well, because when you make it properly, it can train you to create the proper chemistry naturally without any outside assistance, without having to have the thought first, because normally in the beginning, our thoughts are what hold us back. If we can create the chemistry without the thought to begin with, that helps us get on the right path. Now, that being said, now that we know that frequency creates vibration in the neurons vibrate at the same frequency if they're within a specific range and they're positively affected by the tones. When that happens, neural chemistry is produced. And it's that chemistry that allows you to feel what you feel. So now that we all understand that, we have a unique understanding that very few people on this planet even think about, never mind understand. Now, what you need to understand is that for these chemicals to get produced, you need things called precursors. You need vitamins, you need minerals, you need nutrition. Okay. If all you eat is fast food, McDonald's, pizza, Wendy's, Harvey's, whatever's out there, you're getting very poor quality food, which means you don't have a lot of the precursors. I cannot tell you how many customers of mine told me, I'm listening every day, 3 times a day, and I'm not getting any effects. I talked to them, finally figured out that these people weren't eating right. As soon as they started eating better, they suddenly started getting results because they'd feel something while they were listening and then it would go away almost immediately because they didn't have the precursors that were necessary. I can help you to get your neurons to vibrate at the right frequencies. I cannot help your neurons to create the neurotransmitters, the endorphins, and the hormones necessary to allow you to feel the way you should feel. You need to help me with that. You need to help you with that by at least trying to eat half decently, trying not to make your 3 meals a day potato chips, French fries, and hamburgers. Okay. Do your best to eat foods that don't have chemicals in them, that don't have GMOs, that aren't organic. Try to stay away from these things. I understand it's difficult and I understand it can be very expensive, but you know what? There's farmers markets all over the place in almost everybody's city. You can go there and the prices aren't anywhere near as bad as Whole Paycheck. Whole Foods, right? So you can do things. And even if you eat just a little bit better, you're getting more of these precursors into your body, which allows the entrainment to do more of its thing. Okay. So that's what I mean by no supplementation. Okay. When are you, Janice? A few of you are excited about Vi. I don't blame you. Okay. I have to wait. I'm really tied up now with my Revitamind launch. You have to understand that most of my products are self improvement based. Because of Dr. Bredesen's discovery of my Revitamind program and inclusion in his Recode system, I am in a unique position now to get what is on the outskirts of accepted science into the mainstream. And I'm on the verge of that because of the doctor's book and because of the new book he has coming out as well, which also will be mentioning about my work. And when that launch is fully prepared and completed, then I will be holding or making the announcement for the 25 people who are interested in doing the VI beta test. Once the VI beta test is done, which again, that's 6 weeks, and then maybe another couple of weeks after that for reviewing the results, putting together the final web pages, we would be releasing Revitamind. The schedule, we don't really have a schedule yet because there's a lot of work to do, but I'm hoping within 3 months or 4 months that would be done. And then we will be able to move on to others. I also have other frequencies, other types of tones. Right now, you're familiar with binaural beats, which I don't believe are entrainment, but a lot of people claim they are. There's isochronic tones, there's monaural tones. I have about 8 or 9 other tones. By the time I release them for beta testing, it'll probably be 4, maybe 5. But I have new tones that I believe can be very effective as entrainment tones as well, that will be completely original to the Mori method, which we will be also beta testing after Vi is finished. So, stay tuned. There's a lot of cool stuff coming down the line, that's for sure. Okay, so let's see here. Is there such a thing as brain? Okay, we did that. We did that. Okay, I love that. Thank you. My pleasure. Got it. Understand. That makes sense. Thank you. Okay, can you talk more about Dr. Bredesen? What does he do, and the name of his book, please? Okay, if any of you have any people who you know that are suffering from any kind of cognitive issues, cognitive decline, uh, pardon me, Alzheimer's. Okay, Dr. Dale Bredesen. As a matter of fact, I'll write it down here. Dr. Dale Bredesen got a book out. Okay. There are also doctors, maybe in your area. You'll have to look it up. I think there's a methodology in the book to look up people. The book is called The End of Alzheimer's. Did I spell that right? No. So before I hit enter, let me fix that. Okay, there you go. So you'll see that I just left a comment in the chat window. You'll be able to see it's Dr. Dale Bredesen, The End of Alzheimer's. He's actually a neuroscientist out of UCLA, and has been like a high-ranking member of a lot of different brain organizations. I actually had the pleasure of interviewing him. There'll be about an hour. I interviewed him for about an hour and a half. It was supposed to be half an hour, but we had so much fun. It ended up going long. I'll edit it down to about an hour. We may segment it into 15-minute segments. We'll see. But you'll be able to see a full interview with him. He'll talk about the brain, how it works, why it has problems working, and we'll relate it to the Mori method and his inclusion of my recordings in his work as well. So there you go. You'll be able to look it up there. He's an amazing guy. To find a medical professional who's so highly respected, who actually, he was on Dr. Oz, he was on America AM, I think it's called, or USA AM. I'm not sure. I apologize. I'm a Canadian. Yeah, us Canadians, we apologize all the time. So but a fantastic guy. I can tell you that the Revitamind product that he was talking about, actually a recording from Revitamind, was created before I knew certain things. And now that there's renewed interest in my system, I've actually included something that helps with sleep, because sleep is a very important factor in cognitive issues, as well as a special frequency that research I have found possibly can help to break up what's called the amyloid protein that is involved in Alzheimer's. And this amyloid protein kind of stops the current from flowing between the neurons through the dendrites. So hopefully that helps. Okay. How about beta testing when that is out? Okay, Janice, I'm assuming that you're talking about the Revitamind system. That actually is already in the process, and that will be tested by people who have purchased Revitamind. So if you're interested in that, you can go to www. No, that's four W's. Let's just do it this way: www.activemindsglobal.com. Okay, and you'll find those. There's three specific products there. You'll find one called Revitamind. Okay, so when we are ready for the testing of that, we've already done a lot of it, but when we're ready for the final round of testing, then I will be making an announcement to that list only, and it will only be to those people who have purchased Revitamind. So if you are interested in taking advantage of that, go to the site, check out the program, see if you think it's for you. It is an amazing program as it is now. This is not Revitamind Ultra. This is not the newer version, which will have actually the old version plus a few added components that I just mentioned. So that is about that. We're coming up to an hour. I did promise you a little bit of a personal testimonial. So what I'll do is I'm just going to give you the Reader's Digest abridged version of my history here, and how entrainment played all the role, as a matter of fact, in bringing me back from the abyss. If any of you have any other questions or comments that you'd care to share, please type them in the meantime. When I'm done my story, I'll take a look. If there are questions, we'll continue. If there aren't, we'll say goodnight. Please keep in mind that this is being recorded, and this part 2 and part 1 is probably already available. Part 2 will be there probably 10-15 minutes after we say goodnight. So, for about 40 years of my life, I was what I would call clinically depressed. I wasn't diagnosed that way. I went to see doctors. They all said, "You're coping very well. There's nothing we can do for you." Now, keep in mind that when I went to see doctors, it was a long time ago when doctors didn't just give pills for everything. Not that every doctor does that, by the way, but you know, I wasn't prescribed anything. They all said, "Well, you're coping really well." I kept thinking, why do I have to cope though? That, wasn't really fair. So as I'm going through life, multiple attempts on my life, but let's face it, it's pretty easy to end your life if you really want to. So if I didn't, it meant that more of me wanted to live than wanted to die. I used to wake up every morning. I used to look out my window, crossing my fingers, hoping I would see mushroom clouds. That's how down I was. I will tell you what I tell other people: find the darkest black that you can see in front of you right now. Unless you're listening to this in the car, in which case don't do that. But just look at the darkest black you can see. That is a bright sunny day for me. Or actually, it was a bright sunny day for me. Now my bright sunny days are as bright as anybody's. But back then, pitch black was pretty much the best I could hope for. I have great parents, great family. I even had friends somehow. I'm not sure how I managed that. But just spiteful, hateful, depressed, depressing, annoying, injury riddled, everything under the sun. And again, I'm not going to get into too many details here, but you can imagine. Because I couldn't get help medically, because I wasn't being given or offered any help medically or psychologically. I saw psychiatrists and psychologists, and they all said the same thing the medical doctor said, that, you're not that bad. I've seen worse. Okay, fine. So because I was able to cope, that meant that I needed to suffer. I didn't think that was very fair, to be very honest with you. So I started on a journey, if you will. There used to be a book or a magazine, I think it was called Tools for Exploration. This is before the internet. And I somehow found it. And there was all these technologies in it, and I tried as many of them as I could afford. I tried hypnosis techniques. I tried meditation techniques. I was addicted to drugs and alcohol for many years. I smoked so much pot that now that it's legal, I have no desire to even touch the stuff. Okay. Anyway, for me, where I am, it's legal. For those of you that didn't know, I still have no desire. That's how much I've been there, done that more than a million times. Not interested anymore. Thank you. I was a sex addict too, by the way. Anything that could take my mind, even for a few seconds, off of, and I realize saying you're a sex addict and it only took your mind off of it for a few seconds doesn't go to say how great I might have been. But you know what I mean. Anyway, any little thing that I could do to make myself forget, to make myself numb, I tried. And, to some degree, I guess it helped a bit. But eventually, through trying all these different things, little bits and pieces, I guess, started sticking in my consciousness and in my subconscious. And eventually, I started getting ideas that nothing's really helping me. Maybe I need to create something that will help me myself. And that's where the real seed got planted. I started in earnest trying everything even again, and trying variations on things. And I tried Reiki, and I tried, like, I went to specialists, and I went to healers, and I went to this, and I went to that. Spent thousands and thousands of dollars I didn't have. As a matter of fact, I went over $250,000 in debt. I would say a fair amount of that was in trying to get rid of the depression. Maybe most of it, actually, in one way or another. And you can see that there's nothing left in me of that. I mean, I can laugh, I can smile, I talk about this, and it doesn't adversely affect me. I've dealt with it. And it's all because of the entrainment. I started coming up with, like, I discovered the entrainment. Well, I didn't discover it, but I found entrainment. And I researched, because at that point I'm researching now regularly. I'm reading, I'm going places, libraries, I'm going to medical libraries, and I'm checking out research, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And it really made me think that entrainment was the key. After so many years of trying so many things up and down and up and down and up and down, which makes you even more depressed, as I'm sure many of you know, I finally found what would help me, except it didn't help me at all. And that was when I had my epiphany. I realized that, well, either I'm screwed, I can't end my life, so the rest of my life is just going to be a misery, wandering around in the darkness, or it's just not right what I'm finding. Maybe it's just not being done right. And this is where I get a lot of my beliefs about things that are spewed or espoused by people who don't really know what they're talking about, but they make it sound like they do. I wonder how many people like me got turned off of something that could have helped them, but they got exposed to someone who sounded like they knew what they were talking about, but really didn't. And that just annoys me to no end. So I used the inspiration of those thoughts that maybe I need to come up with something that does work for me. And I worked and I tried and I worked and I tried. And through the depression, I'm finding energy to try to find things. I'm like a scientist who's got his own disease that he's trying to cure. And ultimately, I came up with a system, with a technique that people started noticing around me before I even noticed that I was changing, that I was different. I had some people ask me, "What are you doing?" Like, friends of mine, "What are you doing? Because you're not like you used to be." I told them. They asked if they could try it. They did. They got back to me and said, "These things are amazing." I, of course, they're friends of mine. What are they going to say? Right? But then some months later, they apparently gave them to some of their friends who I don't know, and I got calls from them. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? How can I do this? How can I do that? And then the concept really hit home that I had hit on something. Song, who many of you have heard of and know through his mailings, uh, actually used to send me emails. I was on his list too, just like you. And I sent him a thank you note saying, thanks for some of the stuff you're sending because I've been applying it. It's making a difference. And, thank you. And as a way of thanking you, I just wanted to know if you'd be interested in trying one of my recordings. This was a beta version, an ultra beta, maybe a data version of Neural Synergy from Quantum Mind Power. And he said, Maury, I've tried. I couldn't believe he got back to me, first of all. But, he said, Maury, I thank you for the offer. I've tried lots of entrainment before, and it kind of makes me nauseous. But you asked so nicely, okay, I'll try yours. 3 days later, 5 days later, something like that, he got back to me, which again blew me away, and said, how would I like to go into business with him? He's a Chinese national. English is like his fifth language. Good for him that he has that many languages. And he said, when I listened to it, I understood English better. I retained the information longer, and I was able to read faster. Would you like to go into business together? And that was the birth of the business. And that was the birth of how I got to where I am now. Now, Song and I made our initial connection maybe 12, 13 years ago. We launched Quantum Mind Power about 11 years ago. And the rest, as they say, is recent and not so recent history. So there you go. That is my story in a nutshell. I am going to take a quick look now and see if there were any other questions. Let's see here. Okay, Janice says, and this is the last question, I guess. So unless someone gets through under the buzzer, this will be the last question. Revitamind is for non-healthy folks, it looks like. I need more the prosperity. Any help there in that? Okay, Revitamind isn't actually for unhealthy people. It's helpful, or it can be helpful for them, but it's for anybody who wants to be a sharper mind. I've also got NeuroLearn Plus and Work Sharp. These are all professional systems designed to help people to be peak and to be performing at their best. If you're looking for prosperity, go to themaurimethod.com, click on products, and you'll see down the line there, you'll see something called Effortless Prosperity. That is a triliminal system designed. I talked about it earlier in the call, maybe even back on part one, but that was Effortless Prosperity. That is a system of triliminals designed to stop and to change what I call negative reflexive thought processes, which I believe are primarily responsible for things like depression and ruts and being in situations where we can't seem to achieve what we want to achieve. So I would say effortless prosperity would be the way to go. There's another way to go, of course, quite a bit. It's more involved. It would be the Effortless Success System 2, version 2, or version 3. Now, those two involves, I believe, over 70 recordings. 3 involves 70 topics, over 140 recordings. And I believe 3 is over 90 recordings, 90 topics and 180 recordings of triliminals. And the explanation that I gave before on how to customize your system and how to evolve that system through further customization is available already earlier in this call, and you can hear it there. So I'm not going to go through that again, but that's exactly how it goes. Okay, and that's exactly how to do it. So you have those 3 general options. The other option, of course, is to take the recordings you have now and see if you can use intention to help change your situation as well. Really depends on your circumstances, what you need. Do I need reprogramming? Do I need a kick in the rear end? It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other in some cases. In other cases, you need the 6 of the other. Okay. So let's go. Rita, thank you very much for your help. I will take your advice and listen to as many as I can every day. Thanks, Rita. And remember, make sure that when you do that, you're listening to the recordings that you're inspired to that day. On some level, your subconscious, unconscious, and conscious minds all kind of know already what recordings you're going to want to listen to, especially if you've been listening for a month or two regularly. You'll kind of get a reflex for knowing what you need. And you'll see that down the road in a few months, you'll have a day where you'll be really happy you listened to a specific recording because that recording really helped you in that particular instance, almost like you knew what was coming and you knew what to take to keep it from being bad. It's really neat how that works. You have to trust yourself. You are your own guru, okay? I'm a brainwave entrainment guy. I know what I'm talking about. But when it comes to the brain, physiologically, how it works with the chemistry, how things interact, but ultimately, the only person who's an expert on you is the person who looks at you in the mirror when you're brushing your teeth. Now, I'm assuming you're brushing your teeth by yourself because it's you. Okay. Janice, okay, thanks. I will check it out. All right. Well, I guess that's it. I don't see any more questions. I do want to thank everybody who participated and even those who just were along for the ride. I honestly believe that I feel all of you when you're with me on these calls, on these videos. It's amazing the energy that you give me. It allows me to be clear, concise, hopefully clear and concise, and to have wonderful energy while we share this time together. Rita is asking about missing part of the call. Will there be a replay? Yes, I'll repeat that again. I've done it a few times, but one last time. These calls on YouTube are always recorded. YouTube automatically records them. The only way to not have them recorded is, as far as I know, is to delete them afterwards. I'm not going to do that. They're always available for people to go back to as often as they need. You can even go back to previous calls if you like, keeping in mind that much of the content might be duplicated. Although, because I don't script anything, I will use different ways of talking, different descriptions each time. One may get through, whereas a different way of speaking doesn't. So there's always going to be a replay. Part one is probably already available. Part two will be available probably in 10 minutes once it's finished processing. So I try to do this every month. I appreciate your input. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns that you didn't get through here, then please feel free to email me. You can email me at the Maury method at gmail.com. I put that in the chat as well. Or you can go to any of my websites and check them out. Also, one last thing I want to point out is that at no extra charge, I used to do a radio show for 2.5 years on KAZM radio, and that's in Sedona, Arizona. And I've saved the best, I guess, 100 or so, 128 episodes, and I put them up as podcasts on my website, themaurymethod.com. So if you ever want to have a half hour of free listening, self-improvement, the first half of the call, or sorry, the first half of the show, I'm always giving a brief explanation as to what the issue is we're discussing that week. And then the next half is free and innovative ways to actually deal with these things, exercises that you can do, if you will, that cost you nothing to help you to defeat and persevere and be better than you are. Sorry, to be better than you were yesterday, today. That's all my goal is, for all of you to be a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your positive comments and for your nice thoughts. Until next month, I'm Maury Zelkovich. And as you all know, I am here for you and I appreciate you. Bye for now.